And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Alright, let's start off by saying I really don't like the theme of Comuni much at all. It's shockingly building buildings during the Middle Ages in Italy. Woo! But at least there's some conflict here, and really, underneath this is a pretty vicious game, or at least it can be. Because if you play this game with people who are fairly solitaire players, they're working on their own thing and they don't really care about other players, I think the game could be fairly boring. But if you play with people who are very much in your face and want to attack and have conflict, then Community can be a really vicious and, in my opinion, a very fun game. I'm not going to go over every rule of the game. I'm just going to outline some of the basic principles. The game basically uses 4 different resources. You have these brown pilgrims, you have black armies, you have gold, the yellow, and white craftsmen. All those are used in various points during the game. On a player's turn, there's 3 different things that they can do, and 2 of those involve these cards here. These are buildings that players need to get so that they can build them, and a player can bid by placing a marker of his piece, and he will get everything in that column unless another player comes by and outbids him using gold. Of course, players can use as much gold as they want to outbid another player. So that's one thing a player can do on his turn. He could even bid on another one if he wanted to. And a second thing a player can do on his turn, instead of bidding, he can simply take all the columns where he has the winning bid. And if you see here in the middle 2 columns, it shows this cube. That means if you win that column, you also get a cube of a color of your choice. So these are 2 of the 3 things you can do on your turn. The third option you have on your turn is to take income. When you take income, you always get whatever's printed on your card. For example, this player will always get 1 army and then 1 color of his choice. And he happens to have 2 buildings here. This is a level 4 gold building, so he would get 4 gold cubes. And this is a level 1 army building, and he would get 1 black cube. Whenever you take income from buildings, you have these cards that you flip over, which means you can no longer take income from those buildings until you add to them or build a new building of that type. But you can always take these cubes here. You always get that income. The next thing players can do on their turn is build a building in front of them. It's pretty easy to start a building out. You simply need to play a card that's 1. Although you could start one out by playing a card that's 2. It doesn't matter. This is the first level. When you build the second level of the building, I play the 2 on top of the 1. However, I could, if I wanted to, play the 4 on top of the 1. The number doesn't matter. The number of cards here shows what level the building is. And then I could play the third level. Well, this is a 2, and I really need to play a 3 or a 4, but since this is a level 2, I would also need to pay 1 white cube to show the difference between 3 and 2 to be able to build this. And then, for example, if I built this 2 here, I would have to pay 2 white cubes to make up the difference because that really should be a number 4. Each time you build a level of building, you get that many points. It's one of the main ways to get points for the game. 1, 2, 3, and 4 points. 4 is the highest level. You can then start another building if you want. Or if you don't want to build different color buildings, you could also flip the card over and build it as a wall, which will help out later on when defending the city. Whenever you build a building, you also get to get income from that color building again. Here's the top half of the board, and this part is used for the invasions that will happen 4 times over the course of a game. When these building cards are being auctioned off, when the first deck A runs out here, the first invasion occurs. And then you'll start using the B cards to fill up the buildings, and they get better cards, but the invasion will be bigger. And then C, and then D, the final invasion. Now, each of these invasions pretty much stops the game, and basically players are going to be using their soldiers to defend themselves from the invasion. However, the invasion has a base number. For example, Invasion B has a base number of 8. However, that's what the lowest player is going to be defending against. The other players, however many points they have at any specific time, the more points you have, the harder the invasion is for you. Walls help greatly in personal defense, but everyone's going to be contributing to a large community defense, and whoever contributes the most will be getting different point tiles depending on the invasion. For example, on the final turn, whoever sends in the most soldiers for community defense will be getting 6 points, and the second most will get 3 points. But at the same time, soldiers you send out for defense might help other players, and the penalty for losing a battle is very severe because you get quite a few negative victory points. There's a lot of different aspects to the game. Most of the victory points will come from building buildings. You want to build as many buildings as you can because they give you points. However, if that's all you concentrate on, you will lose so many victory points from the armies that invade you that you'll have a hard time catching up. And you'll find that the people in the middle Not the lowest or the highest people. People in the middle seem to do the best when each invasion comes because they have just enough forces to defend themselves, and they're still ahead of the lowest player. And so that comes back and forth, and you can take cards and force invasions when not everyone has enough armies ready. Like I said, if you play as like a kind of a community feeling, everybody can say, well, let's wait, till the enemy attacks, and let's build up some armies first, and one person can say no, and just start taking cards off the board and force the enemies to attack. The 4 different color cubes are really interesting. The armies are obviously very important when that invasion happens. The white cubes are really useful for building buildings. The gold cubes are useful for money, and 2 gold counts as 1 soldier during invasions. And then the missionaries, or the pilgrims, I call them missionaries. The pilgrims, 2 of those counts as 1 of any other cube, so that keeps them useful. And it allows you to move your bid. If someone outbids you, you can move your bid to another spot. All 4 cubes are basically, I wouldn't say they're equal. Pilgrims are certainly the least useful, while soldiers could possibly be the most useful. But players are trying to figure out which one they want. Whoever builds the most building of any color will get the leader of that color, which you can use to get extra income, and also gives you points at the end of the game. And so there's this back and forth. The auctions themselves can be mean and nasty to some degree as you outbid people and basically make them waste a turn, but it's when it comes time to how much you're willing to contribute to the community defense. Do I have nothing in my hand, or is there a whole pile of forces? I got nothing, but they're all defending me, and that might help me, but at the same time, I'm giving up victory points to do so. It all meshes together in a pretty interesting game. I'm not sure replay value is going to give you a whole lot, but I'll tell you this. Our first game we played, I thought, the second and third games, and after that, things got really vicious, and I wondered if some less vicious people would be really turned off by the game. But either way, I find it fun, but certainly this is one that you would want to try before you played Comuni.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.